Let's just talk specifically about the Iran war. How do you see this playing out, Lucian?
Well, you know what? I mean, where do you start? I mean, Trump has no idea about the history of that country. They've been there for 5,000
Right.
years. I mean, those people, those exact people that are in the country now, are descended from people that fought against Alexander,
Yeah.
a long time ago. And they've gone through wars. Their civilization is justly, famous as being one of the founding civilizations of the civilized world. And to think that and there's 92 million people there. It's a huge country.
Huge country.
If you took Iran and laid it over the east coast of the United States vertically, it would go from Maine almost to Florida and inland. I mean, that's a lot of country. And to think that the idea that they had, I guess, you have to say, I guess, because who knows what ideas they had, that they could uncork some missiles and bombs and make these people do something that they don't want to do is just absolutely absurd. It's just incredible. People have been trying to push around the Persians for thousands of years,
Yeah.
and it hasn't worked. It doesn't work, and they're not going to be pushed around. They have geography on their side, of course. They've got the Persian Gulf there. And not only that, they have a coastline on the Caspian Sea, and they have a coastline on the Sea of Oman. So they have three coastlines, and then they've got a country that's completely comprised of mountain ranges and deserts. If you're in the military, the last two things you want to hear is, "Oh boy, let's go attack a mountain range or a desert." There's no water on mountains.
This isn't the plains. This isn't the plains of Europe where they're going to be rolling, the Abrams over the.
I mean, there's no water in deserts. There's no water on mountaintops. They're just in it. You'd have to boil snow for water, and then it would make you sick. And so you've got to bring everything to attack Iran. You've got to bring everything yourself. They've got no chance to attack that country. And attacking them with bombs, we've seen and missiles, we've seen what happened. I think the only thing that we've got left now, they don't talk about it, is 200 and 500 pound bombs. I think they've really run out of cruise missiles, and they've run out of the kinds of missiles they can fire from floating platform ships. And I don't think we have any missiles over in the Middle East that we can shoot at Iran. I don't think they've got a lot of those ATACMS ones, the medium range ones. And those things are small anyway. The warheads on them are small. Yeah. I don't know what they thought. When a missile lands or a bomb lands, it's very destructive, but very destructive in a small area. It'll knock down a house, or it'll knock down, several houses in a small neighborhood. It'll leave a hole in the ground, but it doesn't change the landscape. It doesn't change the minds of the people that are there. We've known that since World War II. And when we really, for the first time, used bombing as a strategy to try to win a war. And, we bombed, look at what we did in Japan. We firebombed Tokyo and killed, 1 million people and destroyed the city. That didn't change the Japanese mind. What it took to change their mind was a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
And, I just don't know. I have no idea what they were thinking when they decided to
Yeah. I
attack.
mean, these lessons of history. And by the way, I got to say, there is a fantastic book from Malcolm Gladwell called The Bomber Mafia that analyzes the specifics of the bombing campaign that we had in Europe and Japan. And actually kind of is interesting because it's sort of a revisionist history of Curtis LeMay, which, those are getting rarer to read these days. Somebody has something positive to say about Curtis LeMay. But, I mean, it didn't work when the Germans did it in London and in England. All it did was make them more determined. It didn't work when we bombed Germany, as you say. So, do you think the people that lived through Dresden were more inclined to give in to what, the Allies wanted? No, I don't think so.
And bombing Dresden didn't win the war.
No, it didn't.
What won the war was ground troops, and tanks, but mainly ground troops walking their way from D-Day, from southern France,
and the Russians. You didn't occupy the Reichstag with bombs.
no.
It took a fierce fight to take Berlin. And it just seems so extraordinarily just careless. I was listening to General McChrystal, and he was saying, so the new leader, they seem to have bombed him and done serious damage to him physically. They killed his mother, his father, his wife, his sister, and now they think he wants to negotiate. He says, I don't know. I'm not sure many people, is that the way you would react? Like, okay, all right, yeah, you only killed my own family, but let's sit down and talk about this, J.D. Vance.
What occurred to me last night, and I wrote it in the column I wrote last night, was the odd thing about the situation we're in right now is basically that I think that Trump, the aggressor, sued for peace for the first time. I mean, it's always the guy that's losing that sues for peace, and in this case, I think we're running out of weapons, running out of ideas.
So we have a blockade. We have a blockade of a blockade.
A blockade of a blockade, and not only that, the world is running out of oil and gas.